But because of my feministic views, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I had taken Mandela's message very powerful, that it takes education to change a domestic, to make a domestic worker's child a lawyer.
Hey, what's up, guys and girls? My name is Gray Jabesi, and this is another episode of the GirlHYPE podcast. And we have another exciting guest, but before we get into it, I just want to start with gratitude this time. Just want to say thanks to all of you guys who have been listening to the podcast since the beginning. The podcast is growing so well, we're doing really well. And what's more exciting to me is that a lot of listeners who are just joining the podcast recently are coming from African countries, which used to be the opposite of the reality just a couple of months ago. And our Facebook page has been growing, even though I haven't been telling you a lot about it, but it's been growing, and a lot of the guys getting involved now are from Namibia. I see a lot of people from Kenya, and a lot of guys from Nigeria, and a lot of you from South Africa. It's really, really exciting. So we're doing well, we're growing, and let's keep the energy going. Let's keep sharing to get more people involved, and we can talk about all these important subjects here. And our guest today is Baratang Miya, who is the founder of GirlHYPE. And what they're doing is they're teaching girls how to code, which is definitely exciting. At this point in time, Africa is doing all it can as a continent to be on top of technology, to catch up, use technology to solve our problems. So it's definitely a very big part of our life. I mean, you can name an industry that hasn't been affected right now, especially with IT. There's probably none. You know, everything is changing from atoms to bits in a certain way. So even though we have made progress in that sense, there's still kind of a divide where we do not have enough women in tech. You know, an industry that's now running a lot of what we do. It's so sad that we don't have a lot of women involved, and Baratang is one of the people solving that problem by teaching the girls how to code. Baratang had also been chosen by the US State Dept in 2015 TechWomen program as an emerging leader. She was placed at Adobe for mentorship during her TechWomen 2015 award. She also served on Silicon Cape Exco as head of transformation. She was also a runner-up for MTN Women in ICT Community Builder Award 2016. And she's on the judging panel of Inspiring 50, pretty much like Katlego Mapai, who we had on episode 50. He is the founder and CEO of Yoko. So he's also a judge there. And Inspiring 50, basically, they're trying to balance the ratio between men and women in tech. So they want to show role models, female role models in technology. They want to showcase them to the younger generation so that they can be able to believe in themselves that they can do it, because other people like themselves are doing it already, which is totally cool. And we have had a nominee for Inspiring 50 here before, Robin Ferrer, on episode 39. Just make sure you check that out. She's the founder and CEO of Kato. That's another tech company in Cape Town. So make sure you check that out. And just a heads up, they will be announcing the Inspiring 50 on the 9th of August. So definitely add that to your calendar and pay attention to see what's going on. There's a lot about that on Twitter, and they have a website. I'll put all the links in the description. And I have to say thanks to Co-Create SA as well, because they helped me to have Katlego on the podcast on episode 50. So that's definitely, they deserve props for that. Okay, guys, now let's jump into this podcast with Baratang. First, we learned about GirlHYPE in the first section of the podcast, and then we talk about how she got started, and we jump into myths and stereotypes and feminism, and her travels to Silicon Valley, because she has been to, like I said, Adobe, Google, and she works with Firefox. So she definitely has a lot to share, right? If you have anything else to say about this, you can put it in your comments, or you can email me from my website or anything like that. And just remember to share the podcast to reach as many people as we can. And you can write me a review on iTunes as well if you can. And you can download this podcast from my website and listen to it on your own time. You don't always have to stream. If you have iPhone, you can just click the link there to listen on iTunes or your podcast app or things like that. All right, let's jump into this.
My name is Baratang Miya, and I am the founder of GirlHYPE. It's a coding school for young girls in high school, and we teach them how to code with the intention of getting them jobs, like do work placement. Right. And we also work with women entrepreneurs, teaching them how to use social media for their e-commerce.
So you came with your daughter. Is she coding already?
Yes, she is.
What language is she writing in?
I think HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, you moved to new offices now. Where did you move to?
We moved to Salt River.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You moved from Woodstock?
From Woodstock.
Oh, Woodstock. Okay. Okay. Is that growing?
It is. It's not about growing at the moment. It's finding a culture and a space where girls will be able to access this place easier, transport wise. It's so central and it's easy in terms of public transport.
Yes. So do these girls come to you after school, or how does it work?
What we do is we do after schools club. So we run a tech and entrepreneurship clubs in schools. So we go to a school and we recruit 30 girls who are very good with maths and science, and those who are interested in coding. And then we start a coding club with them. And then we teach them basics of starting a startup entrepreneurship. So they take issues from their community, and from those issues in their community, they then try to solve it, coming up with a solution for that by building an app. And then once they've created a prototype for that app, it's a 12-week program where we take them through how to take it to the market, pitch it. And then once they've done that, we then teach them how to code it in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
So you have to go to their school for them to get involved. Can somebody just come in and say they want to join you?
Yes, that is the now we've just started what we call a now fully fledged coding school for women, and we're going to have 8 students where we moved in ops. We've recruited 8 post-matric students, those who finished matric last year, unemployed, but they've got very good matric results. And in this coming 6 months, we'll be teaching them 2 streams. So we'll be teaching them Python and Java at the same time. And because obviously industry wants people who are accredited, we're going to get them to write exam and be fully fledged software developers. In that process, we've partnered with 2 organizations that are taking them as interns, and then they will find them jobs after that.
And on the last event, you said some of your students went to working for Intel, some of them?
Yeah, we've got a great student that was with us for 3 years. She started with us when she was in grade 10, Anita, and she was with us grade 10 and 11, 12. So she attended all our courses, and they did Java. And she is now a great ambassador because she got a job straight from matric. And it just moved her into a middle class, like straight, just because she can code. She got a great job in a company. I think that's exciting. That's the power of coding. What people don't understand is that firstly there's an issue. There's lack of women in tech field. It's a very male-dominated industry, and by virtue of being so male-dominated, we're trying to close that gap and make it more female and more feminine. Or not even that. It's just that equal opportunities for everybody. We're trying to get girls because there's more jobs that are going to be created by the tech industry in the next coming 5 years are just ridiculous. So we have to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity and people are trained in the industry that's relevant. And what people don't understand is that coding is an easy access. It's a door to the tech field. Once you know how to code, you can do anything in the tech space.
Absolutely.
And to get more women in there, it's the power. It's once they know how to code, nobody can stop them. It's like a knowledge industry. It doesn't choose whether you're rich or poor.
Yes.
It's like, okay, you know, I need your skill. I have to employ you. There's no, oh, you're female, male. It's purely based on the skill. And because there is so much shortage, you can't discriminate.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing about tech. It's like in many industries we have seen some systematic prejudices and selection, but tech is more like, can you do it? If yes, then okay.
Then okay. There's no. That's what I always tell the girls, that one thing I like about tech is, can you do it? I can't discriminate you.
Yeah.
I don't even have some jobs. I don't even have to know where you are, who are you.
Absolutely.
If you can deliver, then I'm happy and I can employ you.
Yeah. So you said she joined you when she was in grade 10.
Yeah.
How did she manage to?
It's an after school program, and it was a weekend program. So on weekends, we do intensive. On weekends, we make the girls that we think they have a potential. There's a lot of them. We take them from out of their schools during school holidays, and we take them on a camp. And then it becomes very intensive. 8 hours of coding every day, sometimes 12 hours. And then on Saturdays, we do intensive coding. At the time, we were operating from Khayelitsha at the Lookout Hill in the Bandwidth Ban. So I still worked for the Bandwidth Ban. I was an incubator manager. And part of what I was doing was teaching them how to code on Saturdays. Not even myself, lots of other volunteers. We've got lots of volunteers from the industry and people that are studying computer science from universities. They sign up as volunteers and mentors. So on Saturdays, they would come and they will code the whole day. You know, if you code, it takes a certain hours to get into the rhythm of coding. Yeah, so maybe the first 3 hours is just them understanding the concept, and then the next 5 hours is them practicing. So if you code 8 hours on Saturday, if you're a student, 8 to 10 hours, and then during the week you've got 2 hours of coding in a club, plus the advantage for the other girls, which is like her, she's at COSAT. COSAT is a high school that focuses on science, maths, and they do computing at school. So, and Java was still part of the curriculum. Now the school, the Department of Education changed to Delphi. What a bummer.
Okay. Sorry, just shed a light on that. Why did they change it?
Nobody knows except the Department of Education. Because I mean, there was a big movement. We were all writing letters fighting that the Department of Education must not change from Java, because Java could easily get these kids access to jobs.
Yes.
But they changed it to Delphi. When I asked the teachers, they're saying it's easier to teach than how Java was. So for me, there's a lack, because the industry is looking for a certain skill. Yeah. And then you take kids back to teaching them something that, for me, it's not going to take them anywhere.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's a very hard problem. It's a serious problem.
It's a serious problem. Yeah. So at the time, they were still studying Java at school. So for them, it was a plus, because they studied at school. We do after school program with them, and then we do intensive coding on weekends.
Yes.
And because of the demand, now we've reduced the number of girls. We want to do high impact, and that is why we're saying now we're gonna introduce lots of girls into coding. I mean, I have a dream of reaching thousands of girls. That's like one of the biggest dream I have, is to reach at least 200,000 by 2020. Okay. So we're gonna introduce lots of girls into what is coding. You know, I tweet a lot, and sometimes I write, if you want to start a coding club in your school, please contact us and we'll come and help you to start a code club. Do you know how many teachers, educated people in South Africa, write me an SMS back and say, what is code?
Wow.
What do you mean when you say start a code club?
Yeah.
And that's where the problem lies, because
even the high ups do not even understand.
Even the high ups still don't understand.
Yeah.
What is coding? And I think that is why I'm saying I'm a firm believer on basics. So there's Africa Code Week. I attended the e-skills for girls in Rwanda now recently. And one of the things that we want to achieve is to get as many girls understand just the concept of what is coding and how it can change your life. And you know, it's simple. If you say to someone, "Oh, can you code?" People don't understand that it's one of the most powerful tools. It's like a language. Nowadays, you have to learn English for business. Even though you know your mother tongue, for you to communicate business-wise, you might have to know English. Believe me, in the next coming 3 years, we'll be saying,
"Do you speak Java?
Do you speak Java? Do you speak Python?" If you can't speak any of those, you will be lost, because there are also languages. A computer has become such a powerful tool that you need to communicate through it. And that is why I'm a firm believer. I don't know if I started this like in 2003. Before it became a fashion, I started a software development program teaching people how to develop software. And for me, it's been a journey.
What got you into software at all, like back in 2003?
You know, I think it was destiny in a way, but I had played a huge role on women's movement on campus. I had campaigned against women's rights and human rights for women. It's like the biggest thing for me. I'm a declared feminist. I am a feminist.
Okay.
And I don't deviate from that. Like, I'm a true feminist. I want equal rights for women, and I don't think the society should be judging people based on their gender. And now with that, you get a situation where you've been doing all these things, and I walk out of university and I ask myself, where am I going to work? Now I was at a disadvantaged situation. I had just finished my postgraduate in marketing, and I had a baby, so I had to do something. And now one of what I was doing was continue going to schools, because I was volunteering when I was on campus, teaching with all these organizations that are teaching in the township.
Was that in Cape Town?
Yeah, I was at UCT. So I was teaching through Shoko, through Sharp, teaching about HIV, about extra maths classes, and I thought to myself, I'm going to continue doing that, but in the process of me not doing anything, it's still in this situation where I have to set up myself. I looked for an organization that could reflect what I was doing. At the time, there was so many organizations saying women's rights, women's what, but there was not much about education specifically for women. And I thought, no man, I have to set up an organization that will focus purely on changing the girls' educational status. And I started one. If I can't find one, and then I started one. But because of my feministic views, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I had taken Mandela's message very powerful, that it takes education to change a domestic, to make a domestic worker's child a lawyer. That makes sense. I mean, only education can change your life. Can do that. And coming from poverty myself, only education could give me the power to say things I could say, the voice I had been in the SRC. Literally, when I was on campus, I was very active. So I started going to school teaching girls about their rights, about self-confidence, doing extra classes on computing. But I had chosen computer because when I got to UCT, I realized the advantage. So there was an advantage of those who knew computers and those who didn't know computers. Now I get annoyed by petty things. One of the things that annoyed me was we had extra classes of computers. And if you go to that extra computer classes, it was so dark. It was only black people who were attending the class. And I was like, this is just ridiculous. It shows the educational system that we receive. Now in the afternoon...
So does it mean in the whole class it was only black people?
Literally. The people who were attending extra computer classes, it was black people.
What does that mean?
I think it meant at the time, I mean, this is like 1997. So we didn't have computers in our schools. We didn't have access. Access was denied. There was a huge digital divide at the time.
And we didn't have computers at home.
And we didn't have computers at home. So for me, getting to UCT and literally working and touching a computer was like, wow, what a brilliant experience. But at the same time, while we're the only ones struggling, it means there's a huge gap. Kids are going to come to UCT and still waste 2 hours of their day writing exams. But can I tell you that it's a big thing now. When you go to universities now, they test them on basic skills. And I was at UWC, and one of the things they do is they test students on their basic digital literacy. To accept them. And students don't fail that exam. Students nowadays, I'm not talking about in the past, I'm talking about maybe last year or whatever. If they don't reach 80%, they don't qualify to study computer science or whatever, and they drop out in first year. So that digital divide is still alive, but it's subtle. So at the time it was a digital divide, and I loved computers. And what happened was I studied marketing. Now in my marketing class, I was, you have to do advertising, you have to create adverts and posters. So I realized that media is being controlled. We manipulate Photoshop, we make a woman. And I was like, no man, this is not how people should be. But at the same time I was studying women in religion. So one of my elective course was women in religion. And the two couldn't agree. Because the other course was telling me that women should be powerful on their own. They should accept who they are. And then I go out and I have to go to my marketing class and advertising, and I have to take all that I learned, and it's a contradiction. And I thought to myself, why don't we use media as a tool? That was the crux of the matter, to use media as a tool to educate young girls. That if they knew how to write their own stories and project the voice they want, then it's easy. To cut the long story short, 2003, and then in 2004-5, I meet a guy at an internet shop. I'm busy doing my own thing. I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation to go present at one of the schools, and a pamphlet. Like I design everything on PowerPoint. It was the biggest thing ever for me. So I designed this pamphlet, and this guy looks at it and he says, it looks beautiful, but it could have taken you a shorter time to do it. If you did a website and people just go there all the time. And I laughed my lungs out, and I said, I can't design websites, I don't know how to do that. And he said to me, it's quite easy, I can teach you how to design one. And I said, really? I said, it's quite easy. I can show you front page. And he taught me how to design a website on front page. Took like an hour to design GirlHYPE page. And then it was published. That was it. I knew I'm going to teach girls how to design websites. And 2006, 2004-5, I walk around telling people I teach girls how to design websites. But technically, we were using Microsoft and designing front page, and it was nice. It's a website, but for me it was. In 2006, I met students from CPUT, and they are volunteers. But this guy Sakumzi, he comes to me and he says to me, you're not teaching girls how to design websites. And I said, what makes you think that? We've got lots of websites published. And he says, why don't you teach them how to code? And I said, what is how to code? And he said, no, you teach them HTML, CSS. And I said, cool, you do it. And then he took the first year curriculum of university students, their first year curriculum at CPUT. He brought the curriculum, taught it to our girls. At the time, it was a mixed class between age 10 and 18, and we had some few boys at CPUT. He taught these kids that curriculum. In about 2 weeks, we had a camp for 2 weeks. By the end of that 2 weeks, I also knew HTML, CSS, because I sat in class and I was like, wow, what
this is beautiful.
And we never deviate from that, because that was a changing moment for us. I still have the result. That's the only time I was so organized, like to keep handwritten feedback from people. I still have it. I carry it with me because it's the source of what those kids wrote there after the feedback, and said, I never even knew something like this existed.
That was 2006.
That was 2006. And that time we were supported by the chamber. We had bigger support. We were hosting camps at University of Stellenbosch, getting loads of girls to understand what is there. And since then, it's like the foundation. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I still sing the same song. Sometimes they're out of fashion, sometimes they're back in fashion, and now JavaScript is still the biggest language. The model has changed over the years of how many girls we take, how do we do it, depending on who's funding us, what resources we get, and we just go like that.
But also, I think the language doesn't matter as much, because once you can write in one language, it's easier for you to do it on your own, to kind of go into other languages that you're interested in,
Yes, and also to show you that, learning has always been online. E-learning has always been there.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand is that once you introduce someone to e-learning and the power of the internet, then they don't need anyone.
They don't. Oh yeah, sure.
Then that kid go home and tell their brother, oh, you can learn from online, and tell the sister, because many kids tell me, oh, I introduced my friends, we were all doing it online.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like that cracks to introduce them to the power of internet and that power of how to code.
Yeah, from someone like myself who has learned almost anything online, I totally agree. Yeah. And it's like it's endless in terms of what you can get, and it's constantly updating, because it's not a curriculum that's fixed. So if you're on GitHub or something, there's always new things coming out there.
There's always new things, and sometimes I say to myself, oh wow, our department is so slow. They're not responding to the needs of the industry, because the curriculum that they want us to be teaching is old-fashioned. If you go to GitHub, the curriculum is advanced. People are talking about React Native, and that is still JavaScript, but it's now at another level, because you want quick responses. You want to boot. When you start bootstrapping and doing all these things, it's to create these MVPs. You need different new products, and that's not what we are being taught in schools. So then you can only get online education.
Right now, are you funded by the government? How does your organization work?
Not necessarily by the government. We funded by corporates and corporates. Corporates. Mainly corporates.
And the kids who were coding with you in 2006, what are they doing now?
It's sad because I never followed up on them.
Okay.
It's only 3 years ago we developed a very good monitoring and evaluation system that we can now track back what we're doing. But the kids that in the past we used to keep track of videos, photos, interview the kids, and so all those things are there.
Nice.
Like as what people were saying and what they learned. And you must understand, when I started this thing, the industry wasn't as active as it is. It was me thinking, oh, once you know how to write for the internet, you can write our African stories.
Yes.
And we will break this digital divide, and people will start being able to use their computers. And which was fascinating. At the time, the city of Cape Town employed GirlHYPE, so the organization, to roll out their smart city. So at the same time, I was busy writing content for the city of Cape Town with my partner. I will always give credit to, because I wasn't a trained content creator, and I learned from her how to create content that's relevant to communities. At the time, so the city of Cape Town gave us office space. They paid. We were based at 44 Wales Street, just around the corner.
Nice.
So GirlHYPE had an office there, and we were getting. We were doing content creation strategy for the city of Cape Town, going to also creating, the website Smart City, that content and the layout of the design layout and everything. At the time, we were the strategy and the brain behind it for the city of Cape Town. And so that created a model of, okay, so if you want to run an organization like this, find industry-based jobs, do them, and then take the proceeds. So GirlHYPE goes out, find a job, like we've worked with UN Women and Mozilla, and we've done program on women and digital literacy. So we'll implement other people's projects, and we'll create strategies for other people, and that's what I do. So I help create educational strategies for other organizations, especially impacting women. I travel a lot, like all over the world, contributing, and that's how the organization maintains my skill and me. And then we partner with She++, which is like a US based. We partner with Technovation, and our girls we get better curriculums. We get to get our facilitators to be trained by them. They travel to Silicon Valley very often, to San Francisco, and learn about trends and what should we be doing in terms of women. I'm part of TechWomen. I was chosen to go to the US for 6 weeks and spend time in Silicon Valley, and spend my time learning about how Google, Facebook, Twitter, all those women mentoring me how to get more women involved in the tech space. And that is how we keep ourselves afloat. That we give our skills, but we'll go out as an organization and charge for this craft that we've created.
All right, over the years.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Mozilla, obviously, you mean Mozilla Firefox guys?
Yeah, the Firefox guys.
Okay, interesting. But what are they doing here?
We did. In fact, Peggy was one of the facilitators. What were you for Mozilla? A club captain. So what they did is they started 10 clubs of women and girls. So I had 5 clubs that I had to start and come up with a strategy for that. And UN Women was paying them for that. So GirlHYPE was like the implementer on the ground. So we started a women in web literacy clubs, a coding club for the girls, and we were using curriculum from Mozilla. Women with disability, we started a coding club for women with disability. Our club captain, who knew nothing about computers, is now an SEO analyst. She works, I mean, she's on a wheelchair, but she's already working for Sprout. She's an intern there, and she started purely by being a club captain for Mozilla. I just met her at a incubator, and I said to her, when I worked in Kairi, I said to her, I want to introduce women with disability into computing. Will you be interested in recruiting 4 or 5 of your people, and then I teach you guys? And she said, yeah, cool. She became a club captain. She introduced me to the world of disability and women and their challenges. And then Sprout said, we are looking for an intern. Is there someone you guys know? And I put Patience, and she's now working in the industry, and she knows far much better than I do in terms of analytics.
Right.
And then we had the women who were part of the digital literacy. Some of them couldn't even move a mouse. Like our first class, 90% of the time is teaching people how to move a mouse.
Oh, so you actually start all the way from the bottom?
All the way from the bottom. It's like teaching them firstly how to use a mouse, how to read a computer, Microsoft, all the packages of Microsoft Word, like how to use Gmail, how to create your own account. And then we make them create the Twitter account, the Facebook account, all these, like we teach them all the Google packages on how to create calendar, especially the women in business. And the benefits of that, of how you can start marketing online. Why are Instagram pictures very important? And once we've done that, then we said, with women, we don't go further. We say to them, start promoting your business, and this is how you do it. So most of them, we ended up saying, start your online Facebook business. And these are our crafters. They didn't know how to use a computer. I remember one lady literally spent 2 weeks telling me, this mouse is gone, and I can't see it. And I'm like, listen, I would hold their hand and say, this is how we move it. Don't move out of it. And now those women send me emails. They even qualified for high advanced programs of women in tech. And then we had unemployed young women who are in the township. So we have 5 clubs: women with disability, women in business, young girls in schools, and then we had unemployed group of women who are mothers. They just started life. They have matric, they're sitting in the township and have no life according to the society. We taught them how to code through a Code Lab. So that was a different ball game. We outsourced those girls to another organization. And all of them are employed, either as that data capturers at the city of Cape Town. Because the thing is, it's not about, I hope I'm going to say this right. It's not about how clever they become. It's about the change. That shift of mindset. Because some of them are unemployed. I mean, Shumigas, these people have needs. She was unemployed for almost 4 years. She had been volunteering, getting paid 1,000 in this NGO, that NGO. She had lost her job. She had a mother of 2. She comes to her coding classes. 2 months later, she has learned fascinating skills. She hasn't qualified, but she's more advanced than most people in the industry. And what does she do? She started applying for different jobs. And what does she have also? Access to internet. So when they come to classes, they have access to internet, they have access to a computer. So they start applying for jobs and doing others. So there's other behind the scenes things that we teach them, like how to find a job, how do you work with teams, because they create all these things. And now these skills, in 2 or 3 months, they are more advanced and they've gained confidence. Then they start applying for other jobs.
And the fun thing is, like, when you can do those if you have those kind of skills, there's no one job you're looking for.
There's no one job you're looking for. And they're now confident to apply for office administrator. And you're like, oh wow, now we are applying for office administrator, and they put there that I'm studying Python, or I'm studying JavaScript, or I'm studying this, and it enhances them that I know HTML and CSS. So because we do online platforms, and we encourage them to create their own portfolios on GitHub, which is more important, working with other people on their code. One of the things I do is mentoring globally, like online, for Mozilla. So I mentor people that I've never met in my life, and they design their own website, and they design beautiful platforms, and I've never met them. And that's the power of the internet. And that's the skill I'm transferring to the girls now, that to say, you can get someone sitting anywhere in the world, from Mozilla pool, to mentor you to design your own platform, as long as you've got a great idea. You don't need to be sitting here and employing greatest developers in the world. Because I just mentor them and put together the whole thing and help them how to move from an idea to it being alive.
So let's shift gears a little bit. There is this notion of saying, it seems to some people that, well, just to be able to write code, you must be some kind of smart and all these kind of things. So for you, with your experience as an educator, what do you say? Is it an access thing, or it's actually somebody has to have a certain mind to do that?
It's both.
Both? Okay.
So there's people who will go to any university and study computer science. Let's not take it away from them. It's a mindset. Those people will be, we need them. They are the people who will work for the NASAs, and they are the people who will design bigger than we think.
Complex systems.
Complex systems. And they are taught how to think analytically like a computer, and they've got their brains is programmed already how to think like that. Now, what we focus on is to say, for that world to be accessible to women and to unemployed South Africans, and to anybody, in fact, we need to teach them the basics. Now, for the basics, you don't need to be intelligent. Anyone can code. I've proved it. I know anyone can code.
Because there is a notion out there for people to think that just to be able to write basic code, you have to be super smart.
No, anyone can do hello world, believe me. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I always tell people, if I can code, that means anyone can code. And it's purely because I was 32 when I learned how to do front page.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, and I always say, it took me, I only write hello world for almost 2 years. That's all I did on HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. I would teach the girls how to do hello world. All the sophisticated stuff I'll leave for the University of Cape Town students. But now I'm beginning to challenge myself to say, let me go further and bigger. Because obviously it wasn't my forte. I was creating a platform, an entry point for the girls. But anyone can code, believe me. When we take school kids, like the 10-year-olds and the 12-year-olds, and we give them syntax. All of them, if we, the whole day sitting with them and you say, this is what you write, on Scratch Me, this is what you write, they will write the same code, they will come out with the results. Also, when I say it's both, is that you have the embedded systems, you know, like Java will write for you, and you can have something like App Inventor, where you are coding, but there's another underlying code written for you by someone who's very complex, who has gone to universities and written analysis, and you know, those people who are like the gurus. Those are fine. But I think what the notion is doing is discouraging entrepreneurs.
Yes.
The notion of you have to be smart to be able to code, to be able to do what, is taking away from digital entrepreneurship the world of massive opportunities. Because we're telling people that if you don't know how to code, you can't be a tech entrepreneur. By virtue of just saying that line, people are thinking, oh my gosh, that world of tech is about coding, is about what? Which is a load of bull. It's ridiculous.
It is bull,
Anyone can code. I mean, you can sit there and I can teach you HTML.
Or you don't always have to know how to code, technically, but you just have to understand.
You have to understand the language so that you can be able to communicate with your developers.
Exactly, yeah.
And once you know that basic language, if somebody is saying to you, oh, the wireframe is not coming together, you can always know what they mean when they say wireframe. And you can say, no, I've done this before. Sure. I know it's possible. And you also learn the basics of how to create your own layout, how to communicate with engineers, how to those are the basics that we want.
Or to read tech news at least.
To read the news. Yeah. The other thing is, you know what? Computing teaches logical thinking. Because there's nothing, you can't do anything outside the syntax. You are boxed. If I teach you an array, you can't all of a sudden say, oh, I'm creating my own array.
Yeah.
And the syntax for array is the same.
Yeah.
It's the same as a function for a mathematics. It's the same. So once you know those functions, all of a sudden kids start thinking logically to say, okay, if I want to go out of this syntax and create other boxes and they start thinking mathematically. Yeah,
it forces you,
It forces you to. And anyone can code. No, that is just, I think anyone can code.
Right.
If you just have the will, because obviously it takes patience also.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So I have had Robin Ferrer here on the podcast. She's also a woman entrepreneur in tech in Cape Town. I've had also Jess Bonin, Lady Bonin, the tea lady.
Oh yeah.
I've heard her on the podcast. She's an entrepreneur. One sentence that tends to come out of you three is the old white man somewhere. And you use that word again on the last event at the Startup Grind.
Yes.
What is it? What's that complexity? I really don't understand I think just to give an example, Jace was saying, well, yeah, she went to some tea farms. They couldn't give her opportunity because mansplaining to her, and things like, because she's a woman. So she said it was always old white men in those positions. So I don't know what's the old white man complex. What is it exactly?
It's a boys' club.
Oh, okay.
It's an mansplaining. You have to work hard, double hard to get into the club. The society is structured. I'll make 4 friends. Me and my friends know when we go out for tea, we WhatsApp each other and we say, let's go out for tea. But what me and my friends don't understand is that the first one I pick, we discuss exactly how we're going to convince the first one and the third one and the fourth one, which restaurant we're going to go to.
Sure.
Now, if you come into a boys' club, tech in South Africa, and the tech in South Africa is unique. It's the technical landscape. When the government, our industry of tech industry was built on manufacturing industry and clothing industry, in cars. Is it car?
Yeah.
Car, motor industry and mining. Now, all these industries were very male dominated, and the jobs in those industries had a law written that all the skilled labor, which is like the technical jobs, were reserved for white males. And now, there was a law passed. It was passed in 1912. It was reinforced in 19-something by the mining industry, and it's been carried on and on. I think nobody ever erased it just because we came into democracy. Yeah. The law didn't mean anything anymore. But there was a law passed that all the skilled labor will be reserved, white-collar labor will be reserved for white males. Now, what people don't understand is that industry that you're talking about was motor industry, mining, textile, and all this farming. Most of the sophisticated farming, you would find that they were reserved for white males. And now they have the culture that they've created. Yeah. And the job talk. Now, if you don't know that things are discussed on a smoking break and you don't smoke, how are you're gonna miss out? You're gonna miss out. And believe me, because it's a white male culture, when you walk in, they suss you out. They know what they're looking for, but they will never tell you. And they recommend everyone. So if you're new in the industry and you don't have anyone to open the door for you, it's locked, it's closed. Sure. Period.
Right. Now I get it.
We need to break that door, and once that door has 4 or 5 people that are new to it, and that's why we say the more women come into the space, the more women will say, oh no, this is how you get in. Through mentorship, through coaching, encouraging other women. Like when you see that Bonin lady, the tea, she knows how to negotiate a deal, how to do. Though she did a trial and error, now she knows the boys' language. And when they mansplain her, it's easy for her to say, back off, don't do that. Yeah. But if it's new, and you get
you can either quit on that point.
Abrupt.
Yeah.
And you're like, when did I become all these things? Then you realize you quit.
You can quit, yeah.
And the culture needs to change.
So for the next girl probably who get mentored by her can start differently because she would know what she pretty much already knows.
Yeah, she will know what she knows, and also the more female gets in, the more the culture relaxes.
Right.
The more mansplaining, because other people are breaking. You know what? We don't have to all go through it. Just because I went through it, we don't have to go through it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because then we need to educate men. I always tell people, I say whatever my mind tells me to say to any man. And those who've worked with me will tell you, I don't care. I have nothing to lose.
Anybody who goes to events, tech events here knows.
Yeah, they know. I say whatever I want to say, and purely because I don't want my daughter to be saying the same thing. I don't expect my daughter to stand there and say, look around and tell me, who do you see? It's a white male environment. It's a white male, white spaces, Cape Town. I don't want my child to go through that. I don't want my child to say that. I want my child to say, look around. There's so many women, we don't even have an opportunity. How are we going to create jobs for these women? Women make more than 50% of the people of the population. But they are like 3% of the technical field owners in the space. In Africa, Sub-Sahara, Intel did a research and found that 35% of women in Sub-Sahara have never touched a computer before. And now when you make a statement like that, then somebody says, oh yeah, they own a mobile phone, they all own smartphones. Go and work with those women and you see they've never touched a smartphone. All they know is how to answer the smartphone. And then people are saying, we can't be doing this. I think they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is something that needs to change.
Okay, so now there's another chapter of this where I think I covered that with Robin a little bit. To the people listening, they can go back to the podcast and listen to it. There's now a starting point of who gets about interest. People talk about interest of, maybe if you look online now on this conversation, on YouTube comments, whatever, people usually say, oh, well, most men are just interested in tech and women aren't. What has been your experience? What do you think on that?
I've never met a woman who's not interested in tech.
Well, because with Robin, we discussed...
let me say this. I've never met a woman who's not interested in tech. There's the culture of the tech world is different.
Yes.
It needs persistence. It needs resilience. It needs someone who knows how to network. It needs skills that are purely digital world skills. These skills that we are now all of a sudden crafting to say, this is the 21st world century. This generation of people need to be able to be resilient. When I say resilient, they need to be able to say, I don't know how to code, but you know what? I'm gonna not how to code. I can't solve this problem. You know, when you're coding and you're trying and you're making this error and you're making, and it can't, you're like, my gosh, I've been coding this for the past 24 hours, but there's an error. And all you need is that little comma, maybe to put there, and then you're
you're like, oh my god.
Oh my god. And that is what we need. We need to be teaching girls that it's not broken. You didn't break a computer. Be resilient. Try to find the code. Be a team player. Find another software developer and say, come and look at my code. There's something that's not coming.
Yes.
Now, the other thing that is so powerful, and we're struggling to get girls to be more poofed about it, it's hackathons. Those are like 48 to 72 hours of coding.
Yes.
And, you know, I work with girls, and when I say to girls, oh, we're going to a hackathon this weekend, the chain of commands. You must start with the mother, because we live in a society that's not safe. Girls can't walk around by themselves. You have to drop them by the door, and you have to get permission from the parent. And it's not because the parents are strict, it's because we live in a very unsafe environment for Sawa, especially for girls. Now, when we organize environments that will teach girls that resistance of just coding and designing and thinking about idea generation and just breaking that mold of this is how you do it, and even make a space where people just learn how to continue breaking things and putting them apart and learning about innovation. You need long periods of thinking. You need safety and security. You need to create spaces that the girls will feel safe in and be able to think innovative and learn that this is agile. You try it, it fails. You try it, it fails. You break it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And that is a culture that you can't just take anywhere at the moment because of safety and security. And that's what I always say. You know, it's quite easy to teach people. I could take hackathons to any place. But I mean, if I were to sit 24 hours in the township, 48 hours in the same space in the township, maybe I'm worried already. Oh, someone is going to come and steal our computers. Oh, someone is going to break it. And how am I going to get these girls there? And that is one of the challenges now. What was your question?
Yeah, you pretty much answered part of it. But what I was also going towards
the
was
interest.
the interest.
Now, it's not whether girls are interested or not. It's that those basic skills that we have to be teaching them to make them continue being interested. So you find women study computer science and then, wow, the society we live in tells them, oh, you're 24, you should be finding a husband, you should be having children. Now let's be realistic, the tech world is not designed like that.
Oh, no.
It's designed that people sit in front of computers like geeks in the offices. If we can change that system, that even if I were to become a mother, even if I were to become at the moment I am in my 40s and I have taken a break in terms of coding for a very long time because I had to go work, I had to build my skills in certain things. When I come back, the industry doesn't work.
It's not the same,
And also it doesn't like older people. So
you think so?
Oh, the industry doesn't like old women. I survived because I'm in South Africa. But if you go to Silicon Valley, they are all 23, 25. The technical girls at Google, they all look like my kids. I'm like, oh my gosh, the idea stage generation that is there is fresh.
Yeah.
You need people who think for the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's lacking at the moment. So it's not about interest, it's about the teaching,
the culture,
and the tools. And our schools are still sitting with the old way of teaching.
That's true,
that they're teaching the kids is
So do you think what must change, the culture or people who come into the party must adjust to it? Because with Robin we discussed this issue where there's a stereotype. Most girls want to be pretty, and well, if you become a tech girl, you become a nerd and you don't look pretty anymore. So there's kind of like a choosing point where it's either you have to be pretty or be nerd. It's a stereotype.
Is it?
Oh, you think so?
I know. Not that I think, I know.
Okay. It used to be there, right?
It used to be there. It used to be a nerdy environment where I think it alienated both males also. Male and females. It was a stereotype that for you to be in front of a computer and be nerdy, you have to be wearing glasses and looking geeky and dress a certain way and be so good with maths and and it alienated lots of people. It wasn't only alienating females, it was also for males. Most males didn't find this environment attractive, though some of them knew, it's that resilience that you find from boys and women is a bit. I think one of the skills that I'm so passionate about teaching the girls now is resilience. I had a discussion with someone, and I'll tell you what that person told me, that if we want more women to be in the tech space, we need to use the language that women understand, and we need to start asking them to design apps for fashion industry, apps for beauty, because that's the industry that speaks to women. Now I'm not into that industry. I'm not into that opinion.
Yeah.
No, I beg to differ. It is nice. Girls will understand because it's something they speak about, but I think we'll be perpetuating the stereotypes.
Yes.
And
that's
for
true.
me, that is, I think if we want to teach girls how to code.
So if you want to fight the stereotype, who is to fight? Is it to fight the male or the female or the culture itself?
It's
if you want to fight that culture that makes women look like objects.
It's educating both elements.
Okay.
Now, when you educate men, you educate them of how to stop mansplaining women and how to. I mean, if I say something and you repeat it, why are you doing that in a meeting? Or another man is saying, by the way, it is like exactly that apple on the table that is green.
I have a good example of mansplaining. I'll put it in the podcast
Yeah.
so that people can listen.
There is a grotesque gender imbalance in the VC field right now. I can help you navigate the toxicity of this male culture which is encroaching on our feminist island. I mean, for instance, there is something called mansplaining. Have you heard about this?
We know what mansplaining is.
Mansplaining is when a man will condescendingly explain something to a woman that she already knows.
It's from a TV show, but it's a best example.
Yeah, so if you're going to do that, if we're going to break that, we need to teach men that you can't be doing it. Sometimes the culture has been so engrossed in men that some of them are, it's not that, you know, when I say to some men, I talk to them and I say to them, that statement you just made there, it's very sexist. And the person is like, I'm not sexist. It's the same as racism. You can't say to people you are racist.
Yeah.
Because people will say, I have all the black friends.
Yeah.
I have too many, all my friends, but they're not aware. It's an unconscious statement and it's an unconscious act that is built into our culture. That's why we call it culture. Now, I think we should educate men in that retrospect of saying how do you welcome women into this space and how do you open the space. This is diversity, this is inclusion, and women are doing it in Silicon Valley. Have you noticed these days?
Yeah.
They're just coming out with stories and saying, if you want to invest in my business, don't touch my body, don't mansplain me, harassment is not going to work.
Sure.
Now, that is educating a generation to say, next generation, don't take advantage of a woman's looks. If you want to talk to me about business, look at my mouth and talk about my business.
Sure.
Yeah. On this business plan thing, let's just get it out. It's not going to be saying talk about my business plan. It's talking about my pitch deck, my business, and the idea that I have and the team that I have. You know, that's the implementation. When I'm in a good mood, I tell people that my back is standing strong. And I'm where I am for the past 14 years. She's 15. And I started GirlHYPE when she was 2 months old.
Wow.
And she does the baby I was talking about.
So she's the only one?
No, she's got a brother and a sister.
Okay.
So because of that, what I say is my bag was held by white males. I live in a society, I live in Cape Town. It's very white and male dominated, and Western Cape's tech ecosystem tend to have lots of males with power in it. And I've never met any of them who pushed me away. There are those who've made my life a misery. And I'm not going to hold them. Hold the whole potato and say all of them are the same. Yeah. There are those who are making my life very horrible, but it was because I reported to them, I worked with them. And the ones who were in an entrepreneurial space, and I said to them, help me, I need an office space, I need this, they opened the door. Some of them, I speak at a conference every year, e-learning conference. You know that prof, he knows I don't have a degree in computer science, but he invites me every year to come and speak at his conference, and that's where I built my confidence. When I went to CPUT and I started GirlHYPE, and I said to them, I want to work with the University of Cape Technology. I walked into an office of a white male. When I started my first business years and years ago of entrepreneurship, I walked into a white male's office and I said to him, apparently you give people money for businesses. Can you give me the money? And he said, oh, I have to train you first. So it was very old. And my first business was interior design. I was like 20 and at home.
Sure.
And I attended the course. They trained me. He helped me apply for the funding. He coached me. He became my mentor for almost a year until my business picks up. So there's nothing wrong with white males. Let me put it out there. I have nothing against the white males. I have a problem with the system. Yeah. It's like you're saying the government is wrong.
Yeah, it's just the whole system.
It's the whole system has created this. But the more we knock and the more we tell people that this is wrong, open the door, then we are educating males to open. And we must educate women that that's your space, go claim it. You know, when I was in Silicon Valley, I worked at Adobe. And
you worked at Adobe?
Yes, I did my internship at Adobe, and I spent a week at Google with the Google developers. I worked at Google for that particular reason, just to understand the culture. So I was a Google developer group member when I was in Silicon Valley, so I made sure every week I'm there once a week, just learning what makes them the best developers in the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what is it? Too much coffee?
No. It's determination and dedication. Those people work massive long hours. The incubators there, the people don't sleep. They work day and night.
Yeah, sure.
the incubators in Cape Town at 4 o'clock, people go home.
Oh yeah.
And I think they work long hours, and it's a giving system. I'm not worried if I tell you something, you go. If I tell you my business idea, I don't worry about you stealing it. I know you're going to help me to grow my business. So it's a very innovative system, and it's a building culture that says grow too fast, and create, and everybody's pushing each other. It's very strong culture of developing other people and developing ideas. Oh, look, in Silicon Valley, you say, oh, I want to build the moon. Everybody's like, oh, how can I help you to build the moon? And because they have the money to do that. If you're saying it's going to take me 5 years to build the moon, you have people giving you money to build 5 years to build the moon. Whilst in our setting, it's a bit, oh yeah, I want to build the moon. And then the person sitting there is like,
well, what the heck?
Why would you think you'll build a moon?
It's
that, and they are allowed to fail. Failure, which is a big thing in our country. When I was there, I worked at Adobe, and I could see my mentor. Every day, my mentor is a global, what was she doing? Product manager. So she developed assets. Now for Adobe's assets, what you see on the screen on Adobe, they call them assets. They are all designed in India. And the woman is sitting in San Francisco, and all of them, most of their developers are India. When I went to the Twitter flight, which is like all the developers come together for Twitter. I realized they bring developers from all over the world, but India is hosting most of the developers. So you go to Twitter, you see, it's like India.
It's a small India.
Yeah, it's a small India. And if you go to Silicon Valley, it's more, I sound stereotype now, but it looks very Asian. It doesn't look white, it looks Asian.
Okay.
Yeah, like all the Asian people, name any, you will find them there. And the reason is, I think it's because people can work from anywhere. So my manager was an asset manager, so she could sit and use this whole technology to get people in India to design the best designs and localize. She's a localization project manager. Localize products either for Africa or whoever, and make them good. And I realized that people are not fussy. She's open to failing. So if she came up with an idea and 2 or 3 of them don't like it, she doesn't crumble and say, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. She accepted, oh no, I don't like it, but what's your suggestion? So there's an open culture of talking. They have their weaknesses, but in terms of development, failing and trialing and being agile and coming up with new ideas all the time, I think that's what makes them unique, and they're not lazy. When I came back from San Francisco, one thing I said to myself, I don't do lazy anymore. No, I don't do lazy anymore. I walked to a city, and I said to my staff, listen guys, when we were at the bank, I said to them, guys, we don't do lazy anymore. And they said, what do you mean when you say we don't do lazy anymore? I said, if we tell ourselves we're going to do something, we do it. We forget about the challenges, we forget about everything, we find ways of making sure it succeeds. If we find a hurdle there, we find how we can work around it, how we can do what, but I don't do lazy. I don't want people sitting around and doing Facebook the whole day and doing lazy. Doesn't work there. You have to, it's so systematic.
That's the good thing about it. It's like it's not. It doesn't feel like you're forcing anyone. It's just anybody has the spirit.
That's why California as a whole has a different culture. You have the LA with their Hollywood culture, and you have Silicon Valley with their. So the whole. I think they say 60% of their wealth is based in California, because there's Hollywood and Silicon Valley. They are holding the power of their wealth. Now, when you come to South Africa, I'm not talking about the whole Africa, because Africa is huge. It's a continent. So you can have Kenya, which is the powerhouse. You have Nigeria, which is the powerhouse. You have the Moroccans claiming that. Everybody's claiming. But I think for us as South Africans, we need to turn that. And I believe Cape Town can do it. And we have the advantage of the light, the sun. And we have the advantage of being just the peak where the airports, everything, it's easy, and the technology is so advanced. When I was in San Francisco, people who walked into San Francisco and got blown away, I got to San Francisco and I said, I feel like I'm in Cape Town. The only difference is, no, really, we are so advanced. There was nothing new. There wasn't like tall buildings to fascinate me like New York has that. But when we were in San Francisco, or Silicon Valley as they put it, that Bay Area, there's nothing really new for a Cape Townian there. The only new thing is those buildings, working at Google, working at Apple, and seeing them, and it just lights your eyes up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I lived in Mountain View, just next to NASA.
Sure.
On the other side of NASA is the Google building. Now they've got like 50 campuses, and that is, when I say campus, I mean like the whole half of Cape Town could be Google's offices.
What?
No, I'm exaggerating. Maybe, let's say, when I say half of Cape Town, I mean
you mean
Cape Town,
the city?
Oh, okay. Yeah, not there, because you know I must be careful. Let's say Claremont.
But anyway, most people think Cape Town is just this, especially travelers. They come here, they just think they've seen Cape Town.
Yeah, when I say, I'm saying it in terms of a traveler, tourist point of view. Yeah, that could be just Google. They have huge campuses, great transport system. The best ever, and that is one thing that makes them different. It's that the transport system in San Francisco is amazing, and in London it's the best. Now, when you have that good transport system, people don't have to pay a lot of money to be traveling to work, leaving at 4 because they're chasing traffic, and then you can improve certain things. And the other thing that I liked was it's that agility. People are flexible to change. People are listening, and people are not. Racism there, it's subtle, it's not something that's stamped on your face. So by the time I realize you're being racist, you and I have achieved too much. So it's too late. It's too late for me to say, you are racist, because you and I have achieved so much. You might have stereotypes of, black people don't eat red meat, or black, you can have those stereotypes. And in terms of work, people forget about those little petty things. And they say, so San Francisco is those big companies, and I'm speaking in terms of TechWomen, because I was there on a TechWomen program. Most of the TechWomen mentors for me, they were white. And that for me demonstrated, because we mentored by executive directors of the Google, the Twitter, the Facebook. And these are all women coming together to mentor us. And I realized that they also have their own challenges.
Okay.
We vocal. I can sit here and talk with you on a podcast easily. And I think for them, they still have a long way to go to realize that. I mean, when I was at Adobe, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to search for a black person. And it's like, it's a search mission. Where are black people? And then you come to Africa, and I think it's maybe because they could be a minority, but you know, that's a different story. Maybe I don't understand the dynamics.
I did a podcast with Rihanna Lynn. She's the founder of Footrace from Chicago. She has worked with Google as well. So I think she's one of the people working towards inclusiveness, so that they can kind of blend, get everyone involved, because I think it's still unequal now.
That's why I say it's still unequal anyway, and it's still unequal. It's you tend to talk, and you know, black comes in shades. So
so it comes to say, what is black?
What is black? And now you have all these shades of black, and now if you black like me, you know where to be found in San Francisco.
But I think there it's easier for them, because everything not white is black, unless it's Mexican. Or Indian, then you know they have their own category. Where here we have colored and we have black and we have white.
and all these shades, we all like, oh yeah, I'm not white, I'm not black enough when you colored. And it's like very confusing for them. Everything is black, but that everything is black, you struggle to find it. And I think they still have their own issues, but in terms of entrepreneurship,
I think it's the best ecosystem.
It's a great system, I must say. That's one element. And
okay, so before we close, where can the girls find you, and can they just join just like that, or how does it work? Is there an evaluation process?
No, we work with schools, and schools recommend the girls, or we go to schools and we post up a poster and we say, we're looking for anyone interested in this course. We come, we teach, we get like lots of girls interested. We teach, maybe 97 register.
You don't charge them anything?
No, we don't charge them anything. 97 register, and then by the time we get to CSS, we have 60. By the time we get to JavaScript, we have 30. And now that's our 30 that we want to work with. It's an automated elimination process.
But has anybody failed who really wanted to do it but they just can't, or it's just that people who just don't do well, they just weren't interested enough?
The people who don't do well, they weren't interested enough, they weren't pushing harder. There are those who are really interested,
but they just can't get it.
They can't put everything together. So they know HTML, they know CSS, they know JavaScript, so they know the code, the syntax, and they know how to do basics. And then when you say to them, "Oh, I need you to implement this or do this," they can't go beyond that. And yeah, there's a lot of those, and that's not our point. Our point is at least they know. At least they can. Sure. Once you have that skill, then you can use it on other basic stuff, and you know computers. And girls, we have a website. It's www.girlhype, girlhype.co.za. We have a Facebook page. It's GirlHYPE SA. So it's our Twitter page is @GirlHYPE SA, and then we've got Facebook GirlHYPE, and we are a little bit getting on Instagram. Our social media managers might.
What are you doing, social media manager? your Instagram is not that active, she says.
It's not at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so and if a school is interested, we are approaching school principals because they are the ones who really can encourage the girls to become. If it's a community, it has to be part of the school principals, the parents, everybody, and then or they sign up on our website and say, "Hey, come and start a club." And then if they want to join our camps, our which we had taken a little bit of a stand back a little bit in terms of camping, but we're now beginning to roll out our camps. That they can find, just email me, baratang@girlhype.co.za, then I take it from there. We have rolled out national. In August, 47 girls in Bloemfontein are studying. When we started, are graduating from JavaScript.
Yes.
They had been studying at University of Free State, being taught by the lecturers there, which is brilliant because we got computer science professor getting other industry people, his students who have graduated, working in the industry in Bloemfontein, teaching at University of Free State, teaching the girls how to code. And these are girls between grade 10 and 12. And they are graduating, 47 of them. We started with 198. Yeah, that's why I say it's a self-elimination process. Only 47 managed to get to the end, and they're writing proper assessments. They got proper curriculum, and we have a club starting in Johannesburg, and we're starting one in Saldanha. So those are people like NGOs, schools who've heard me talking on radio or any on conferences and said, "Hey, how do I start this?" We are very keen to start in Knysna. I'm in negotiations with the Knysna people. So that's how we go.
Great, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And lastly, thank you for listening to the GirlHYPE podcast. I do this podcast every week, usually on Mondays or Tuesday. So you can look forward to the next one, and the best way to keep in touch is to subscribe. You can do this on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, or from my website www.grayjabesi.com. And you subscribe, that means I'll be able to send you an email when a new podcast is out, as well as some other important stuff. And I will appreciate it if you also share the podcast with your friends and family on social media. It helps a lot, and it's easy to do. Just go copy the link and paste it on your social media, and boom, everybody can have it. And I would like to know how I'm doing with this podcast. So if you could take your time, it would just take you 1 minute to go on iTunes and write me a review and rate the podcast, whether from 1 to 5 star. You can see where you can put it, and then that will help me to improve and do better podcasts as we go. And feel free to email me from the website as well, because I would like to hear more about what subjects I should cover the most, and where do you think things should change up a little bit. And you can also just email me to say hi or ask for coffee or anything. I'm totally open. Doesn't matter where you are. Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. See you on the next one.